Hello, welcome to Bored and Confused, where I review shows based on two criteria. One, was I bored? Two, was I confused? Today's show is Boop the Musical. Now, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me grow this channel. And also a reminder about how I feel about Broadway. I feel every show is worth seeing. If a show makes it to Broadway, there is a reason to go see it. So I may have some criticisms, but ultimately, in the end, Broadway shows are amazing and you should go see them. Okay, so let's talk about Boop the Musical. I was really excited for this musical because there haven't been a lot of new American musicals this season. And this also has a book by Bob Martin, who wrote Drowsy Chaperone and the television show Slings and Arrows, and he did the book for Elf. And I think he's a really talented, funny, so excited to see his stuff. And Jerry Mitchell is directing, and I love Jerry Mitchell's direction with musical comedies. Is usually spot on. He's able to move bodies around the space and choreograph and make it funny, and yeah, he's great. Love Jerry Mitchell. So super excited for this musical. It has music by David Foster and lyrics by Susan Birkenhead. I'm not familiar with David Foster as a theatrical composer. He's mainly known for a string of hits through the 80s and 90s that he co-wrote with a lot of different artists. And Susan Birkenhead is a musical theater writer by trade, and she's worked on a lot of high-profile shows, not any huge successes. She worked on Jelly's Last Jam, Working with Stephen Schwartz, Triumph of Love, High Society, shows you may have heard of, but they're not the huge hits. Also, Bob Martin is Canadian, David Foster is Canadian, so there's a lot of Canuck energy going on here. Is Susan Canadian? I don't know. Let's dive into this. Despite being familiar with a lot of the creatives involved with this production, I don't know a lot about Betty Boop, other than that she's a cartoon character from the 1930s who was drawn in black and white. I know what she looks like. I've seen a couple of the animated shorts that she was in, but really don't know a lot about her. And I didn't know much about this show other than that I know it's been bouncing around for a while. Interestingly, did you know this? I just learned this from Wikipedia. There was actually a movie musical being made in the 90s that was set to star the voice acting of Bernadette Peters in the role of Betty Boop. But there was a change up in the higher ups at MGM Studios, and even though 75% of the storyboarding had been completed for the movie, they cut funding and it never got produced. I'm really curious what that story looked like. All right, what is Boop the Musical about? Well, in this musical, we've got two worlds. We've got the black and white world of Betty Boop, and we've got the real world, which is in living color. And what is happening is Betty Boop is in her world, and she's working really hard to make movies, and she's asked by a reporter who the real Betty Boop is, and she's unable to answer that question, and she goes into a spiral. She doesn't know who she is anymore. She's working all the time. She needs a break. So she tells this to her grandpa, and he's an inventor, and he says, well, everyone knows who you're here, but there is a place where everyone doesn't know who you are. And he said, that's the real world, and I created a machine that I used 40 years ago to go to the real world, and this giant invention's been sitting in his living room for 40 years, and Betty's never noticed it. So anyhow, he's like, but you can't go to the real world, that would be bad. And Betty's like, okay, go to sleep, Grampy. And then of course she goes to the real world. And then in the real world, comedy ensues, and she just figures out who she is, and she comes back. Spoiler, she comes back to the black and white world. Big surprise. Right off the bat, I really was loving this show. We start in the black and white world. We start out with the song A Little Versatility Never Hurt. This is a smart song in that the writers are telling us who the Betty Boop is that we need to know. Because I think of her as more like a sex symbol, but they're saying, no, 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 no. She is everything. She is a cowgirl. She is a pilot. She's very versatile. She's not just the sexy girl. She's done all of these different roles in her career. And so it felt very much like a Barbie moment. I think actually this show takes a lot from the Barbie movie, this kind of idea of taking a fictional character and bringing them into the real world, and they're having to deal with the differences between the two. The second scene between Grampy and Betty is great. I love both of these actors. Betty Boop is played by Jasmine Amy Rogers, and Grampy is played by Stephen DeRosa. And they are so funny. The physical comedy, the voices, they're having a great time. This show is billed as a family musical, and they're really leaning into that. The comedy is really geared for younger audiences, but still very enjoyable for older audiences. And this world, done in the style of the Max Fleischer black and white cartoons, is really whimsical and fun, and really love this opening scene. Now, when you're writing a show, in my opinion, you have like 10 minutes, you have the first scene or two to really establish the conceit. And the conceit of the show is that there's these two worlds that exist independently each other, and that through an invention in physics, a cartoon character is able to transition to the real world. And that's the conceit we're going with. But I feel like once you create this conceit, you have to give us rules of these worlds, so that we feel grounded and we understand what's happening. And I don't really feel like the book writer in this show has fully done that, because as we move through the musical, things happen that you go, oh, okay, is that an option? All right. Oh, okay, that can happen. Okay. You start to feel a little unmoored, and you don't really know where you're going with the show. And this is mainly happens right at the start. The minute that Grampy realizes that Betty Boop has used his machine, which he basically told her to use, to go to the real world, he's like, oh no, this isn't good. We have to get her back. And the explanation for getting her back is that the world that they're in was created specifically for Betty Boop. So if she's not there, the world doesn't have any purpose. But there's no ticking clock. People are upset because the movie director comes in. He's like, where is she? We have to film our movie. What's the urgency for Betty Boop to come back to this world? Is it decaying? Are people becoming depressed? Are they becoming hooked on heroin? Why does she need to come back so urgently? And in the real world, it's, the same thing happened in Elf. In the movie Elf, you've got the Santa's world, and then you've got the real world. But when you do a musical, the real world is never a real world, because it's a musical theater world where people are dressed in bright costumes and they're breaking out in a song and dance. So in many senses, there's not a lot of difference between the black and white world of Betty Boop and the color real world, because in both worlds, people are heightened, they sing and dance. The main difference is the colors. Black and white versus color. So Betty Boop, for a reason that's not explained, when she arrives in the real world, she arrives at Comic-Con and quickly realizes that she is actually famous. Despite what Grampy said, she's actually famous in the real world as well, because she's recognized for being dressed up like Betty Boop. The first guy she meets, she basically falls in love with because his eyes are blue and they're colorful. And it's like, is she looking for love? I thought she was trying to find herself. And then the next person she meets is this little girl who likes her so much because she loves Betty Boop that she says, I'll take you home with me. So this little girl brings an adult woman dressed like Betty Boop home to meet her aunt, who's cool with it. Talk about a cartoon world. And then this guy shows up who's her brother, but she says he's kind of brother, but kind of her dad. I don't understand if they're in like a foster care situation. I don't know what this family's makeup is. I never understood that. And lo and behold, it's the same guy that she met at Comic-Con. Big coincidence. So I won't get into every little moment, but as the story was progressing, I just had to go, I got to let go of this book, because this book is doing whatever is convenient. That's what they're doing to tell their story. The biggest issue I did have with the book, though, is in the second act. So Aunt Carol is working on a campaign for this guy named Raymond, who's running for mayor. And Raymond is just a mess. And it begs the question of, why is Aunt Carol even working for this guy? But what happens is he's running for mayor, and in the second act, the show takes a turn and it becomes really political all of a sudden. That I just was like, I don't need this. Not in a family show. I don't need to get political. There's enough. This show is overstuffed as it is. There's Faith Prince is playing this character of Valentina, who Grampy met 40 years ago, and she was a physicist. And he fell in love with her, but she was only 20 and she was too young. And then I don't know, he fell in love, but then he never went back to see her again. But now it works out because Grampy hasn't aged, but she has. But these whole side stories get so little time. Faith Prince is wasted. She gets like 1.5 songs. She just doesn't have a lot to do. It feels more like a distraction when we just want to get back to the story of Betty. All right, so those were all my confusions. Let me tell you about what's really working in the show. I love the opening scenes. I love the black and white world. I love the actor of Jasmine Amy Rogers as Betty Boop. She is great. She is delightful to watch. She's so firmly in this character and just great choices. She's working real hard. She is pulling us through the show and she's up to the task. So she's a reason to go see the show. And also loved Stephen DeRosa as Grampy. He's great. Just love him as well. The energy of the music is very infectious. With most family shows, it's smart to have a lot of up-tempo songs. This does exactly that. It gives us songs in the style of jazz. They've made Dwayne a trumpet player so that he can have a connection with Betty. I don't know if these two actors really had a lot of chemistry, and so I wasn't really invested in their relationship, especially when Betty Boop falls in love with the first guy she sees. I'm like, you can do better, honey. The score is upbeat and energized, and the orchestration sound great, and they're great for dancing. The play is set in two places. It's set in the 1930s, and it's set in modern day, and yet the score to me felt like it was in neither of those eras. It felt like it was somewhere in between. So let's wrap this up. Was I bored? Was I confused? I wasn't bored at all during this show because the performance of our lead actor is so endearing that anytime she's on stage, and she's on stage a lot, I was really enjoying it. I was really enjoying Grampy. I was enjoying the energy of the show. But confused, I've already explained. The book is so confusing. I just really wish it could have been focused in. So let's wrap it out. Tickets. Guys, let me tell you. I have arrived. I got a press ticket for this show. Now, I've gotten press tickets for other shows, but only because I knew somebody. I knew a producer. I knew someone in the theater. This was the first time where I just got a press ticket to a Broadway show directly from the press rep. Isn't that great? All right. So I had a great seat in the middle of the orchestra. Can't beat press tickets. But the Broadhurst Theater is a small theater. You can get discount tickets to this show for sure. Because it's a family show, I think it's going to have trouble finding an audience. Online, they're offering Digital Rush. They're offering lottery. You can get a $45 ticket to see the show. And I think the show is worth seeing, if only for the brilliant performance of Jasmine Amy Rogers. The energy is infectious. It's a very joyful show. It's a great way to forget about our woes if it didn't go into the political section in the second act. But hey, maybe go to the bathroom for that and then come back. Oh, I have to give one more shout out. Eric Bergen, who plays the jackass character of the politician, who, you know, I said I think that should just be cut because I don't like the politics. That being said, he may have my favorite song in the show. He sings a song called Take It to the Next Level, where he tries to seduce Betty. It is funny. It is a funny, funny song. So thankful for that. Kudos to you, Eric. All right. So go check out a new American musical and Canadian on Broadway. Well, Canada's in North America. A new North American musical, Boop the Musical, playing on Broadway. Go check it out and let me know what you think.
Don't bore me. Don't confuse me. If you do, then you'll lose me. Don't want to drift